Broadcasting live from the moon and back, this is The Coin Chat, the most trusted voice for all things cryptocurrency. Each week we dissect an important issue and cut through the noise and misinformation out there in the world of blockchain, cryptocurrency, and ICOs, capturing the facts that truly matter to you that will give you an edge in this fast-moving emerging market. The who, what, where, when, and how of what you need to know in crypto to get ahead so you don't get left behind. Now here are your co-hosts, financial and crypto experts Yuri Cataldo and Steve Good.
Hey, this is Steve Good on the Coin Chat, once again with
Yuri Cataldo as always.
And we're back to once again cut through the noise and misinformation out there. And today we've got some good misinformation out there in the world of cryptocurrency to tell you, I can't even say it today, to tell you what truly matters. We got it.
That's right.
Good. Okay, we're game. Let's go.
Quite of a tongue twister today.
I know. I'm struggling a bit today. I meant to just my return trip from Singapore. But I know that's not the topic of this video. You wanted to talk about OTC.
OTCs. I do. Well, what was it? A few weeks ago, Coinbase announced their own OTC, which is making the OTC concept a bit more popular. It already exists in the other markets. So I wanted to talk to you about what are OTCs and what do they mean in the crypto space?
Yeah. So, I mean, OTC stands for over the counter. That's the official term. And really, OTC is really where you have buyers and sellers that want to trade off market. So between each other without going through exchanges. Now, one of the main reasons they want to do that is because if the volume of trade they want to do is huge, then the seller and the buyer could effectively, if a seller was selling 30,000 Bitcoin and they dumped it on Binance, you can just imagine what that would do to the market overall. And it would wreak havoc on that particular exchange. It would create arbitrage opportunities all over the place for people to buy cheaper one place and sell higher somewhere else. It would just create complete mayhem. And obviously that kind of volume is bigger than you'd see in seconds anywhere. So people try to do these deals between parties off book and do it at whatever the current exchange rate is, plus or minus a small percentage, a volume discount, which is what's called a net price. And then there's a price for the dealers brokers who brokered it. So there's a gross price, and you end up with a price that the buyer pays and a price that the seller sells. And it's all done privately. In theory.
Why is that just in theory?
Well,
because
I don't know about you, but I haven't heard of an OTC deal ever actually going through. I've probably heard of about 20 deals over the last year, maybe more, but I've ignored a lot of them, but 20 deals that were really seemed like sizable deals, but never went through. Except for the ones where, of course, people got scammed and lost money, which, of course, I've heard of several times. But I have not heard of an OTC deal actually going through successfully. And that got me thinking about why.
Yeah, why is that? It's the same thing. I've spoken with others who have been also looking for OTCs that actually have been successfully done. And I also don't have any examples, and neither did they. So what are your theories on why?
Okay, well, here's the first theory on why. If I came to you and said, hey, you're a rich guy, you've got $100 million, and I happen to have the equivalent amount in Bitcoin, let's call it 30,000 Bitcoin. The first question I'd be asking if someone told me they had 30,000 Bitcoin would be something like, how the hell do you possibly have 30,000 Bitcoin? How is it even possible that you have 30,000 Bitcoin? Because to have that, you had to have been mining it back in 2008 or 9 or 10.
Right.
And you're 45 or 50 years old. So no, I don't believe you.
Yeah.
That's my starting point, because I hear of these people having 5, 10, 20, 30,000 Bitcoin. And my immediate answer to that is bullshit. Just show me proof of coin, POC. You have to show proof of funds, meaning cash, but show me proof of coin. And I don't think you're going to find many people who can actually prove it unless they're showing you someone else's wallet that they happen to find, like Satoshi's. Because the reality is, to have 30,000 Bitcoin would imply that you either bought it at $800, which, okay, that's like a year or two ago, and there was nobody really doing OTC deals back then, not like now, because it wasn't as in favor. And to have that much Bitcoin, you had to have mined it, most likely. The only people that probably have it would be the miners in China. And that's funny enough, the one place I'm not hearing about deals coming from. They're coming from Russia, they're coming from the US, they're coming from Korea, Japan, other places.
That's very interesting. The place
Italy,
that would have the most, would have the most, they're not selling it. Okay.
But where the core of the actual Bitcoin mining takes place is in China, and the miners themselves are the ones that need to sell it at some point to monetize their business. And funny enough, I'm not hearing of those types of deals. Of course, there's brokers in between, but you always get back to who's the original seller of the coin, and or who's the master of coin if we're talking Game of Thrones. And unfortunately, that's my number one problem is I can't find proof that anyone actually has it, because unless you're 23 years old and have a lot of Bitcoin, I just don't believe it.
Sure.
And the second part of that would be, why the hell would you sell it at 3,300, 3,400 current market if you bought it at 12,000 and you did an OTC deal then you're selling it at 75% loss, and how stupid are you? Again, don't believe it.
Yeah.
And if you're doing money laundering and you sell it and get a bunch of cash and then you want to buy more, then you got to go buy it from someone else who also happens to have 30,000. So we're back to the same circle again of the same problem. So it just goes circularly into, I don't believe any of it really is real.
Yeah. Okay.
Not likely.
So let's talk about then some scams, because I know you've got a good story about scams.
So point one, of course, is so point one was this. It's, do they actually have the coin? Yes or no? So
yes.
The second point would be, let's assume that I had 30,000 Bitcoin and you had, I don't know, what would the market be now? $100 million, let's say, roughly.
Yeah.
Okay. So in order for that deal to go through, here's the problem. If I send the Bitcoin to you right now, it's gone.
Right.
Now I need the cash. Now you could push the send button and then you could call your bank and say, oh, I made a mistake and can you please reverse the transaction? And guess what? I'm stuffed. I just lost all my Bitcoin, and you run away. So the problem with these deals is that everybody that talks about wanting them to be done legitimately would like to do them in a bank, but show me a bank that offers escrow services. By escrow, I mean I could send my Bitcoin to JP Morgan. You could send your $100 million to JP Morgan. And when both funds are cleared, JP Morgan would clear the deal for us on both sides and send each of us respectively our stuff.
Yes. Right.
But there isn't a bank out there that I've found yet doing that. And if they are, they're certainly not advertising it. It's kept very below the radar. So how do you legitimize an OTC deal if the banks themselves won't do it? The only way you can do it then is you have to go into the bank yourselves. Perhaps you have to have security guards with you and have to hope that when you walk out of the bank, you're not shot or robbed, because to be honest, you're at the whim of the other party and you don't know who they are in the first place. And of course, notwithstanding, you have to do KYC, know your customer. How do we know they're a real person? So you need ID and verification. And of course, AML, making sure that anti-money laundering, that both sides have the funds from legitimate purposes. So all of those things play into the why we need the banks involved. And please, if any bankers are listening, get in touch with us and tell us why it is the banks won't touch this, because this would legitimize the whole OTC process if there were real deals out there. So that leads, of course, to now we know that, of course, because there's no banks involved and it's all done person to person, where it all goes wrong, which is you'll have something like, so somebody contacted me, interestingly enough, through the Telegram group, and it kind of transmitted to me saying, hey, I'd love you to cover this. So it was a friend of a friend of a friend sort of thing. And he went and flew down to Milan to meet unfortunately, a known scammer. I've heard about him a few times before, called Daniel from Lugano in Switzerland. And he drives across the border to Milan to do these OTC deals with people where he says, hey, you know what? I can, I'll give you cash for your Bitcoin. So you go and you meet him at a hotel lobby or whatever it is that they're doing. And the first couple of transactions are done legitimately. So you'll send them, let's say, 3 Bitcoin, he gives you $10,000. Okay, great, but it's in cash.
Sure. Yeah.
Or whatever it is. And then you give him another couple of Bitcoin, he gives you another little, tranche of real cash.
Okay.
Then you do the big deal where you send the rest of the Bitcoin. He hands you a bag full of cash, and I have one of these that someone mailed me here in London, which I'm going to show and then burn because, of course, it's illegal to have fake currency. But this is a 500 euro note right here. It looks pretty real, except for
that one thing in the middle.
It says, is that right? If I got this way.
Flip it around. There you go.
Facsimile.
Facsimile.
Fake 500 euro note. So these guys told me that they went and met Daniel, and it's unfortunate because I've heard about this guy before from other people who said stay away because I have a project in another project I know of, an ICO, that thought this same guy was trying to invest in their project, and turned out he was clearly scamming them. And they warned me off about a year ago about this guy, and his name just keeps coming up. But basically, he did 2 or 3 tranches of transaction, and then turns around and hands them the rest of the cash as fake money.
Ouch.
And they didn't check it all until they left, and then they realized, oh look, I have a big stack full of fake 500 euro notes, and I just lost my money. These guys apparently lost between them something like, what did they say, 150,000 euros or 300,000 euros or something crazy. Now, ouch. I don't know what they were thinking, the guys that were doing it, because I don't know them personally. I don't know why on earth would you possibly want to collect that much in cash and drive around in Europe in cash. The deal that Daniel tries to pitch to them is, hey, let's do a few deals here, and then we can I'll hand you the cash, and then you can drive across the border, take the cash with you, and then I'll give you the Bitcoin back. But of course, you have to know that if you're driving between any country and Switzerland and bringing money across the border, it's against the law for anything over $10,000 or euros. And you'd end up in jail for that. So I don't know what game that guy's playing. It's a weird thing. But anyway, I feel sorry for those guys. And if nothing else, others will learn that even if you do a face-to-face OTC deal, you need to check every single bill if you're going to do it with cash. If you're doing it with cash, I don't know why you would do that, because it kind of just destroys the whole legitimacy of the guy with the money under the mattress problem. There's no KYC when you get into that. Probably people didn't do their KYC. They didn't do their AML with this guy, because if they had, they wouldn't have done the deal. Right. But needless to say, it's really hard to do OTCs because of trust. And unfortunately, this is one known scammer, but there's plenty of others out there. I heard of I've heard of several bad deals gone wrong. There was another deal that I heard about going on with some guys up in northern England, with some guys down in Europe, and of course, cash sent, Bitcoin never received. So it's just one of these things that you hear about. Unfortunately, the OTC only goes the wrong way. So, I don't get involved with them for a reason, because, But so fake facsimile here, fake 500 euro notes. It's going to get burned after this call. I've got a candle I'm going to go light and burn right now. And it's unfortunate, because I really feel sad for people that this kind of thing happens. But it's amazing how legitimate and real this 500 euro note looks. And,
it does.
I would just say to people, if you want to get pulled into an OTC, person-to-person deal, be aware of beware. This is I guess is one of our investor alert episodes, actually, because this really is something people need to be careful with. It's really hard to know how to do an OTC deal unless you've got really solid, legitimate people around you. Lawyers would be great. Get your own escrow service involved if you can. There are private escrow companies that do escrow type deals, much like when you buy a house and you have to put your money in escrow before the deal goes through. So do the research if you're going to get involved in that kind of stuff. Do not just walk in and wire transfer money to someone random. Do not send Bitcoin to someone random. Make sure you know who the party is and have lawyers there, because you've got a better chance of keeping legitimate. And make sure that you know that when you're walking out that door, you could easily get mugged by the other side. So have security as well. That kind of stuff people don't think about. That's why they get themselves in trouble.
Yeah, no, this has been great. So thank you so much for covering all this, because you've given us a lot to think about, just beyond the typical, what an OTC.
Yeah, I don't think most people know how dark the OTC world is, and I really stay away from it. But talking to people, you hear these things, and we've had a few guys in our channel asking about OTC, and I have responded to them. But then one of them actually PM'd me offline and said, there's a lot of stuff out there. Maybe you should just tell it, cover it. Yeah. And so, thank you.